Welcome back inside Gillette Stadium, everybody. My name is Mike Petraglia, joined as always by Patriots expert columnist for WEEI.com, Christopher Price. Chris, I think you said on the radio side that this was not going to be an easy one. This was not going to be as simple a blowout as everybody expected. Just win, be healthy in doing so, and move on. And that is what the Patriots do in a 27-25 win over the New York Jets.
It was interesting, too, because I think the matchups initially, you look at the matchups coming into this one on paper, you would think the Patriots would be at a disadvantage. When you're talking about the Patriots offensive line against the Jets defensive front, it turned out it was the other way around. The Patriots offensive line actually held up pretty well for the bulk of the evening. It was the defensive front that struggled, particularly against the Jets run. The Jets were able to run the ball without an issue. Chris Ivory topped the 100-yard mark early in the third quarter. They were able to kind of shut it down a little bit later on, but I thought it was interesting. This is one of those wins that, you know, you survive, you win, but at the same time, it's clear on the short week anyway, there's some issues for this team on the defensive side of the ball.
Speaking of that, we were both in on the scrum with Vince Wilfork, Patriots defensive tackle and defensive captain, one of those remaining after the injury to Gerard Mayo. He was placed on injured reserve before the game. And Vince told us we can't be happy with what happened tonight, and we're not happy. We allow them to dominate the game, really control time of possession, and collect over 200 yards of rushing offense. And that almost cost us the game.
It really did. They really struggled to stop the run. I'll give a lot of credit to Rex Ryan and the Jets. They went with their strength. They didn't try and mess around. They ran the ball. They knew that they were a better running team than passing teams, and they really went after the Patriots with that run. Chris Ivory really ran well. I thought Geno Smith did a very good job when plays broke down, picking up some chunk yards with his legs. I thought he did a very good job. I think for the most part, there was some really good decision-making on the part of Smith. The other side of the ball, I think the Patriots did well. When it came to pass defense, Smith really wasn't able to get much going in the passing game, but at the same time, again, these are struggles. I think you can explain away part of it. Right. A, it's a short week. B, they're trying to learn to live without Gerard Mayo. And C, the Jets actually played pretty well. They called a very good game.
Let's talk about what happened in the game. Let's go with the end of the game and work ourselves backwards. Patriots win this game 27-25 because Chris Jones, one of the two big redeemers in this game, we'll call him, along with Danny Amendola. Chris Jones, with his left paw, blocks a Nick Folk 58-yard field goal at the final gun. Folk's first miss of the year. I believe he had hit 20 in a row to start the season, and it was Chris Jones who committed the penalty in the overtime game in the Meadowlands last year. They cost the Patriots because the Jets got a second chance and Folk drilled it for the overtime Jets victory. Tonight, though, a different situation. Perfect technique. He blocks the field goal. The Patriots escape with the win.
I thought it was redemption. You mentioned redemption for Chris Jones. One of the nicer guys you'll ever find in that locker room. He was able to get that push. That's the second blocked field goal for this team this year. I think that they're starting to show more and more in some weird areas in special teams. We saw Danny Amendola. We're going to get to him in a minute, but Danny Amendola worked, I think, very effectively as a kick returner tonight. I think we saw, the work of Chris Jones on the blocked field goal attempt. It was a good week. They did have some breakdowns in other areas on special teams, but overall, you're talking about just really from a special teams, big picture perspective, I thought it was a good week for them.
The Jets did have that one big return. I think it was like 60 yards that allowed them to get good field position. It was Tavon Wilson tackling the runner from behind to escape further injury, if you will, on that particular play. But the other player, of course, we're going to talk about is Danny Amendola. I think everybody's interest was piqued when they saw him drop back for the opening kickoff of the game and went, along with Brandon LaFell, maybe Amendola is going to have a different role. And sure enough, Belichick after the game said, yeah, we thought that Amendola could give us energy from the kicking game, and it really did carry over into the offense. He had that spectacular, I thought, turnaround catch on a Brady scramble to his left. He made a great side adjustment, a great athletic move. Amendola after the game said, yeah, I've made a couple of those before. I didn't have to turn a full 360, but, maybe 180 degrees. But the play of Danny Amendola was just tremendous tonight.
It really was. You're looking for a guy who has struggled over, the better part of the first 5 or 6 games. And for him to come in tonight and give that team a little bit of energy, he did a very good job as a kick returner. I thought he found a couple of seams. He was able to get up past the 20, which is really all you're looking for in the kick return job. they have not had a guy seize that job to this point in the season, and I think it seems to be a natural fit, at least at this point. You're looking at a guy in Amendola who has some experience at that position, who is able to, to find some seams, to be able to put together some good returns, and then the touchdown catch, I thought really was icing on the cake for him. Again, we talked about Chris Jones as a redemption story. You got to figure Danny Amendola in there as well.
And also in this game with Danny Amendola, he got open on a couple of routes, and people were wondering where was Tim Wright, where was Brian Timms. Well, it was Danny Amendola running some pretty good routes tonight.
He did, and it's good to see. Again, I go back to the idea, and I think you pointed, it really was. It was a redemption story for Amendola tonight. I thought he had a very good evening. He had some good routes. He was a presence on special teams. He caught the big touchdown pass at the end of the game. Now you want to see him build on that. You want to see him become more assertive in the passing game. You want to see him become more of a presence in the passing game. If they can get that, and they can work him into the mix with LaFell and Gronkowski and Edelman, then you might really have something.
And we would certainly be remiss, Chris, if we did not mention the fact that he was the one who recovered the onside kick after it was fumbled at the 10-yard mark. Amendola was Johnny on the spot, recovered that kick, and really probably saved the game right there, because if the Jets get the chance, the way they had been running the ball and Geno Smith had been running the ball, the Jets probably get a much closer shot at a field goal.
You know what? And we sat here and we praised the work of the Jets, and we praised their play calling and Rex and what he did all night. The one area that I would have a problem with if I'm a Jets fan, why are you calling a pass play on that 2-point conversion? You've been able to run the ball and run the ball effectively all evening. To call that kind of play in that situation, I don't understand it. But the Patriots ended up benefiting as a result.
All right, how do the Patriots shape up over the next couple of days? We figure they get a couple of days off, well deserved. They're 5-2, as you mentioned, first place in the division, no matter what happens this weekend. How do the Patriots spend the next couple of days, and when do they start really moving on to Chicago?
It's almost like a mini bye week. I think these 3 days, really, they're going to give you a chance to do a little bit of self-scouting, a little bit of reflection, take a good hard look at your team. You got the trade deadline coming up on October 28th. You might want to think about addressing some of those areas. So you have those 3 days. I think the guys in the locker room want to get rested. They want to heal up. There's some bumps and bruises in there. And you want to kind of get refocused for the second half of the season. You have a couple of games, but then you have another bye. So these are really good times for the Patriots when it comes to getting a chance to do some self-scouting, to do some introspection, to take a look at what's working, what's not working.
All right, the Patriots indeed will have more time to do all of that as they next play the Chicago Bears a week from Sunday here at Gillette Stadium, game 2 of a 3-game homestand, and that of course ends with a game against Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos. That's getting ahead of ourselves. The Patriots have some well-deserved time off after a 27-25 win over the New York Jets here at Gillette Stadium. They improved to 5-2 overall, first place in the AFC East. For Christopher Price, I'm Mike Petraglia, inside Gillette Stadium, WEEI.com.